There's a lot of information out there right now that does show that over the next 1 to 5 years, there's going to be a lot of job loss due to jobs being taken over by AI. And I think that we have to stop sticking our head in the sands that that's not going to happen. And again, this comes down to communication, letting people feel heard, talk about maybe some of their anxieties around this. We've got to talk about it. We've got to talk about it now.
Fear is at the root of so much conflict, and artificial intelligence is no exception. In this highlight from Mind the Machine podcast, Cheryl sits down with Ashley Virtue of the National Conflict Resolution Center to talk about how fear, belonging, and communication shape our response to AI.
The anxiety, then fear folks have around artificial intelligence. High 80% of the population has fear and are overwhelmed, and they're worried. And so when Pew comes up with something like that, I'm like, all right, we really need to be paying attention. We knew from the outset, even the term artificial intelligence incites some fear because we feel like our brains are somehow now being duplicated in a way that maybe we're no longer needed.
This idea of fear and also this idea of hope, which is your brand, hope in this era of AI. Fear is at the root of so much conflict. It is the reason that I think we have so much conflict in the world. And naturally, when something is new to us and unknown and we don't have an understanding of it, we feel afraid, threatened by it. And we don't even know why necessarily. And that's why I love what you are doing, which is help educate people around AI, because therein lies the hope piece, where if you do understand it, you understand how it can be a tool for you, you can feel hope about it, you can feel positive about it. But until then, it is scary. And I admit myself that there are many questions that I have around AI that feel very unknown, especially in the field that I'm in, the field of human-to-human connection, relationship, conflict resolution, where we're tapping into our most emotional places and issues. Fear is at the basis of that, and that there has to be kind of an overcoming of fear, really through knowledge building. Also, one of the things I think was so interesting was how we talked about belonging and the lack thereof. And we think about, again, kind of conflict and a lot of what comes up is people feeling like they don't belong. And that can create fear, resentment, bias, that can create a lot of really complicated issues. A lot of people don't feel like they belong in the AI world because they don't understand it and they don't know it. And so there's, again, that kind of inherent propensity for conflict and for resistance because of feeling like, well, I don't get it. I don't belong here. This isn't my space. And so I'm going to stay away.
Right. Especially if people feel like they are somehow irrelevant because technology is advancing. And technology rarely obsoletes humans. It actually creates more opportunity for humans. It's that initial transition phase where it is, got to give credit where credit is due. That change is important. It is a time to learn new skills and to have stewardship, but to also to ask those hard questions. I think that's what your organization does. Not only answers the hard questions, validates the complex feelings, and then seeks to find resolution. And I got to tell you, that's got to be some of the best work in the world. I don't know. You must sleep very well at night. The entire organization probably sleeps very well at night.
Well, and I think a lot of, again, what we discussed too is just the need for especially workplace leaders to be ahead of this. There's a lot of information out there right now that does show that over the next 1 to 5 years, there's going to be a lot of job loss due to jobs being taken over by AI. And I think that we have to stop sticking our head in the sands that that's not going to happen. And we have to start talking about, number one, how is that going to look in our company? How is that going to look for my team? How is this going to help us in some ways? And how are we preparing for this? And again, this comes down to communication and letting people feel heard, right? Talk about maybe some of their anxieties around this, but just being ahead of it without it being some terrifying thing where all of a sudden, 10% of your workforce has to be laid off and everyone feels blindsided by that. We've got to talk about it. We've got to talk about it now.
Job loss is job transformation. Yes, there will be outright loss. We know that, in fact, but it doesn't mean loss of opportunity. And the Hope AI Tour is about what habits, are you doing daily to create those new opportunities for your purpose, and what experience are you looking to drive to create more
Yeah.
efficiency. So that's the training that findgood.tech does. It's what we all talk about on the podcast mostly, is what skills do you need, what business models are being applied out there, how are folks thinking about these things. And I want to ask you a question in the history of conflict resolution. And I would say maybe we can even go back to, I don't know, biblical times and think about conflict has conflict resolution as an art form, has that changed like the thinking? Because I think, it seems like a timeless truth. Like, would conflict resolution ever change?
It's an amazing question. So conflict has changed. The way we do
Let's go.
conflict has changed. But you are
Yeah.
so right that there are just these foundational truths about people. If there are some basic needs met for people when they are going through an emotional experience, they are much more likely to come out on the other side of it feeling positive about their experience, even if it was difficult at one point.
Make sure you're subscribed to Mind the Machine podcast, like the video, and leave a comment letting us know what you thought.